All right. Awesome. Welcome back. Winning Mindset Formula. I'm Tom Tabor. With me, as always, Jonathan Russian. I'd like to introduce a very special guest today, another former roommate of mine, Morris Anthony Kagen Skidmore, also known as Skid. Skid, how about you introduce yourself to everyone,
So,
man?
hi guys, I'm Kagen Skidmore. I know Tom Tabor for a long time, probably 5, 6 years.
Like, seriously.
My roommate at EKU played football together. He's also my lifting partner, my life coach. Um, that's really all I got, man. I mean, Tom's the man.
Hell yeah, buddy.
There
So,
you have
Skid, Skid, let's talk about where it all started, man. So you're coming from Somerset, Kentucky.
Mhm.
We were actually talking about big high school football towns with Scott in our last episode. He mentioned, Georgetown, how they pretty much close off the town every game night. I know Somerset, as of recently, they made a huge investment in their football program. Adding that turf field, some nice facilities. Talk to me about what it was like to basically grow up in a football town.
Man, so there's 60,000 people that live here, and that's actually grown in the last 10 years. So when I was here, like full time, when I was playing football, it was way less than that. But you want to talk about shutting a town down? It's almost like I don't know if you guys are familiar with like Marshall, but like you can't go to stores on Friday nights. Like they'll shut Walmart down for 2 hours, and it's just everybody's either at because there's three high schools in Somerset. Somerset is it's a 2A football program, so it's smaller. Then there's two 5A, which Kentucky programs only go up to 6A. So there's two 5A schools that are a mile apart from Somerset. So the whole town shuts down on Fridays because a lot of the times, for some reason, the home games interlap and there's three home games. But dealing with dealing with all that is just special, man. Somerset is
Mhm.
just it. Somerset playing ball at Somerset. Somerset is the oldest school in the state, or one of the oldest. I think it's 114 years of football, I believe. I think
Oh
that's
wow.
don't fact check me, but I'm pretty sure we said
I'm googling
yeah,
it right
that's
now.
what I'm saying. Like so I Google and fact check, but it's a um absolutely electric place. There's just so much so like the whole core of it's Somerset High School Briar Jumpers. That's our mascot, and it's a bunny. And the way that came from was there was we were playing Louisville Male in 1936 or something like that. And Male, we're playing them here. We had rose bushes that were at the end zones of each um at our football field, and the male players would run into the bushes when they scored touchdowns, and we would jump over them. So the article read was like Bulldogs unable to stomp Briar jumpers or something like that. And I think we were like the admirals or the commanders or
Mhm.
something at that time. But that's what it changed to is the Briar jumpers from that
I
one.
love how it has that. That's a really cool backstory for a team mascot.
Yes,
That is awesome.
we were actually on Jay Leno probably 10 years ago. That the Jay Leno did a bit for weirdest mascots, and we won the weirdest mascot in the country, which I thought was pretty interesting. Yeah, man, it's this place is special. It seems like this town drags you back as much as you want to leave. It's always just it's my home. I mean, I grew up here. I've moved back here. I work EMS here now, and I'm actually coaching football at Somerset now. I just here recently. O on a D line, of course. I'm not coaching receivers, just they wouldn't let me. But
Hey man, I wouldn't want you coaching receivers anyway.
right,
It just wouldn't be right.
negative, absolutely.
So Skid, talk to me about, your journey to play college football.
Yeah.
Was there always a desire to do it, or was it something that came late?
No, I think whenever I tell you what, I was just talking to my new, I guess my boss, the new head coach at Somerset, and we were just talking about this. I was playing as a three-sport athlete going through middle school. In eighth grade, basketball, I was like, no, it's not for me. And I really liked baseball. I just started late. I wasn't that good. I loved it though. Well, my baseball coach at the time, he's actually my head coach's son's coach now for like little league. So he was just talking, and I was just like, I remember coming to him, and I wasn't really playing that much, and I just wasn't that good. In high school, the Robbie Lucas, my head coach in Somerset at the time, reached out to me. It was like, "Hey, why don't you come start lifting with the football team?" And I was like, "Oh, I got baseball." So I talked to my baseball coach, and he's like, "Kagan, maybe it's probably best that you quit baseball and go play for the football team." And I tell people all the time, like I credit him for being a Division I football player because I quit because he made me quit baseball. I was so bad, but
Honestly, my dad did the same thing to me. I was a baseball player too, Skid. Freshman year of high school, he's like, "All right, pick one sport, focus on that. Um, whatever it is, your off season is just going to be meant for training for that sport. That's your whole purpose in life."
Hey, I mean, that's great advice.
but then so then going in I probably freshman year is whenever I had a huge growth spurt. I was probably 5'10" to 6'3" and I was weighing probably 250, 260. So I knew like yeah, I started as a freshman, so I knew like I wanted to play college football at that point. So I started hitting my freshman summer going into sophomore year, I started hitting camps hard. I was going to probably 15, 20 camps all summer, going all over the place. I went as far as Norman, Oklahoma. I went to um, Massillon, Ohio. I went to the University of Tennessee, and just really, I didn't necessarily get exposure from all these places, but I got to go against some really just great talent. Like I went to the Nike Spark and ended up. Nike Spark was at Massillon, Ohio, which is where Chris Anthony's from.
Yep.
But
Future potential future guest on
yes,
here.
so Massillon is
I went to Massillon,
yeah.
in middle school.
Have you ever been to have you ever seen the football facilities? They're insane.
Yeah, I've been in the big one, like
they're
at
yeah,
Paul Brown Stadium.
yeah, they're it's nicer than probably 90% of high schools in the country. It's insane.
Yep,
So there's
it's
another
crazy.
Paul Brown Stadium
Yeah, yes, yeah.
Yeah.
because that's where the Bengals play
Massillon's down the road from Canton.
from Cleveland too, right?
No, 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 no.
No,
Cleveland's farther north. So Canton is
Mm,
my like, where I was born, and
yeah.
Massillon's, like, I
so
guess
but
20
Ma
minutes away.
Massillon's indoor. You almost could put Roy Kidd Stadium on the inside of it. It is
That's insane.
it's
Yeah,
huge.
and it's nice too. It's
And
like
their field, like, it looks like a miniature I would say it's a miniature Ohio State. If you see the egg shape Ohio State has,
Mhm,
it's very
mhm.
similar to that. It's orange. There's tigers all over the place. Anyways, I ended up showing out at the sport. The way the Nike Sport was set, I don't know if you ever did Nike Sport, Tom, but it was
I
the way
never did, no.
it was like, you had to get on to go there was a Nike Spark, and then there was the Open. How you got invited to the Open is you had to stand out in some category. And obviously, I'm 6'3", 300 pounds. My
Perfect
40 was
size.
my 40 was like a 5 flat. My broad jump was like an 8, nothing crazy, but where I stood out was the med ball toss. I threw like we got on our knees, we had to throw med ball. I ended up throwing 45, 50 feet or something like that. Like they made me do it like 4 times because I was like,
Just to make sure it wasn't a
just to make
fluke.
sure it wasn't fluke. So I got invited to the Open, which was at the Ohio State. And what was crazy about that, man, is I went against some of the top guys that we played with, like Deshaun Hand, he was the number one player in the class in our class. Leonard Fournette was there. Of course, I didn't go against him, but he was there. Like
Mm,
guys that like are in the NFL right now. Like that's kind of where I started getting. I got firsthand coaching because the guys putting on the Nike Spark were either ex college coaches or in between colleges, or they were current college coaches. So like I got that exposure, and being from a small town, my coaches that I grew up with were great, but there's a learning barrier that's different whenever you college. You play college ball. You know how it goes. It's different
exactly.
when you go to college. Those guys just coach differently. Here's the technique and here's how you're going to do it, and then
You have to do it their way. That's the
yeah,
end of story.
it's the way it goes. But so probably now the camp that stood out the most, and I really accredit this to why I got my scholarship was because was I went to freshman year, I started going to an EKU's campus called Down and Dirty, and they can't even do camp like this anymore. But it was full pad, 5 days, 3 a days.
Yeah, they don't do that
Fun.
shit anymore. They
Hell,
do not do that.
but it was like 5 days of just 4 drills and 5-on-5 pass
Oh,
rush.
my special.
That's literally all it was. So like
That sounds crazy.
what put me on the map was like, it's a little different now, but like this Down and Dirty camp, like Coach Johnson and Coach Jeffers at the time was the line coach. They were bringing their recruits to this camp because they wanted to see like firsthand where they were being at. So like I won the O line MVP my freshman year there. Like I whooped everyone's ass at this camp. And
So I
that, yeah,
like how seems like they try to weed out their recruits by bringing them there. It's like, okay, like, yeah, you're one of the top guys on my board, but can you survive this camp? Because
Yes.
this is how every single day is going to be for you here at Eastern. That's pretty neat that how they did that.
Well,
How they,
I went to this camp all 4 years, and it was grueling. It was awful. Like, we lived in Commonwealth Hall. You know where Commonwealth is?
luckily, I never lived there, but yeah,
No, it's not even
I've seen
it's not
that
even
place.
habitable now. It's just offices. It's disgusting. So, and, like, we ate at PAL, like, we got the full college EKU experience. I don't know why, but I absolutely loved it. I mean, I love the place. Um, Probably my junior year, going into my senior year, the last time I was there for a day. Coach Johnson's like, "Hey, let's go talk to Coach Hood."
Mhm.
And he just offered me, and got there, and I loved the coaching staff, man. We went through 2 years. My freshman year, I thought I was gonna redshirt. So we played we played Morehead State first game of the year, and I redshirted. It was the only time to tailgate through college. It was awesome. Because my parents, my mom and dad they have a big green egg, and they make pizzas, and they had this big, tailgating experience. So I got out there, and um, after that game, Coach Johnson came up to me. He's like, "Hey, do you know your plays?" I was like, "Come on, Coach. Like, of course, I play." He's like, "It's okay. You're playing next week." I was like, "Oh, yeah." And we happened to play as we played UT Martin, and what ended up happening is that the starting nose guard is and Bryce Krebs. We ended up splitting reps throughout the entire year. I mean, like, right down the middle, like 50-50. Um, I was a true plug nose guard. Is what the term is, where you just put me in the middle and I'll eat 12 blocks, and I'll make like 4 tackles a game or something. So, uh, man, I got my first sack against UT Martin. My first college game. It was televised. It was on ESPN2. Martin was really good. They were as good as, if not better, when we played them, Tom at home when I got injured.
Yeah, they were always like top
So they
25
were really good.
FCS.
Well, this was
But
before Jack State had their true power time. So it was us, Jack State, and UT Martin was back and forth as to who was the top dog. Because the year before that, there was a 3-way tie in the OVC, and that was us, UT Martin, and
the
EIU.
Jacks. Oh, EIU.
Well, that
Oh,
was
that was the Jimmy G
that was
year.
Jimmy Garoppolo, yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I ended up getting my first against UT Martin. It was Brett Favre's nephew. I will never forget. I think that's the coolest thing ever. We ran forget the name of the form of this stunt, but it was a TE on the inside, and then the backside nose took like a jab step left and then wrap around the inner end.
Oh,
I don't remember the name
to
of it.
do that at
Yeah,
UConn. That was
it's classic call. Well, anyways, what it does, it flushes that quarterback straight to you. So, like, I murdered him. And, like, stood up, and, like, UT Martin's got that. Did you ever play at Martin? I don't know if you ever played at Martin.
yes, that freaking turf was
You
awful.
you know, they
Yes.
have that, it's like a 40-30 jumbotron in the corner. Like,
Yep.
like, I
Yep.
just put my face on there. I'm like, what am I? I don't know what to do. Like, so I just go back to the huddle. Like,
Oh,
look good.
that was your opportunity, man.
Duck the ball, and I didn't do nothing cool or nothing, man. Yeah, the end of my sophomore, we were really good my freshman year. Got playing the swamp. I played a lot in the swamp. We were good though, man. It was nuts. Like, I think we were 9-3 going into the swamp. So, like, none of the starters played. So I played like 50, 60 reps against mammoths. Like, unreal how big some of these guys. If you look at that team, that would have been 2015. I think they had
Well, this is 2014. It was
12
2014 when you played them.
yeah, it'd have been 20. I think they had
So your
12
freshman
draft picks.
year.
Yeah, it's my freshman year. So
Mhm.
yeah, it's 2014. You're right. No, I graduated high school in 14. I guess it would have been 14, 15.
So it was the fall of
Yeah,
14.
you're
Yep.
But, they ended up, I think they had like 12 or 13. It was like Vernon Hargraves, like, Dante Fowler,
Jeff Driscoll.
Jeff Driscoll. Like, they had some absolute, and then their O-line, that's when they had those 2 O-linemen drafted first round. This one guy, I gotta find a picture of him somewhere, dude. There's a picture of me fitted up with this guy, fitted up. He had his hands completely extended on me, and I couldn't touch him. He was
Oh, that's when you know it's over.
Yeah, their
Oh,
smallest guy was 6'6" at center. The right guard, that guy, he was a right guard. He was like 6'10", 6'11", probably 400 pounds, was a mammoth.
mhm.
Yeah, that was, so freshman year was awesome. Sophomore year, we started a little bit, everyone just, college is hard, man. Everybody gets better. And if you start stagnant, it's a business.
No, the rest of the conference got better. So, Jonathan,
Yeah.
2015, this was the year where Jack State really emerged as the power in our conference. That was the year they actually ended up going to the national title and playing against North Dakota State, which, and North Dakota State's a powerhouse. North Dakota State essentially wins the FCS every single year. Uh,
They were
but
so good, man.
Jack State
Yep,
was
it was so
really,
good.
really
That's whenever Jack State had, um, they had the offensive player of the year in the conference and the defensive player, and I think either the defensive player or the offensive got, like, the national. I think it was the quarterback got the national player of the year.
the Walter Payton.
Walter Payton, FCS. He was a freak. They were so good, man. And you know what? We were in that game my sophomore year. We go down and we cram it up their ass. Like we run. Of course, I was still on D line, so like we cram. We the RO line goes down there. We had some monsters on the line my sophomore year. The RO line was good. We had like 3 or 4 guys like had legit chances to
That's
go.
when he had Scurry, right?
But Scurry was a center. Brett Eichmann was right tackle. No, he's left tackle. Just Eric Coy was left tackle. TT with one of the guards, and I don't remember who the other guard was. I think it was Josh Miner was the other guard. They were really good. They're huge. I mean, TT is a freak of nature.
I've met CT. Yeah,
He would smoke 2 packs of cigarettes a day. He had long hairs from East Tennessee. He drove a old like 90 Camaro. He was he's probably 6'7", 3. I mean, he played at 350. He was
This is
a
true.
small, and he ran like a 4'9", 4'8". He was so a freak of nature. But
That's insane.
the first drive, we cram it up their ass. Like we run nothing but like power and dual counters for the entire like 8-9 yards of carry. We got on the goal line and we throw a pick 6.
That's
That's
kind of
very,
sounds
very
similar
similar.
to
Yeah,
some games I was a part of
very,
too.
very similar. So we end up throwing a pick 6, and then we end up getting stomped. We get beat like 40 to like 6. They just won the whole game. They had a DN that was really, really good.
Mhm.
Um,
That sounds about right. Their D line was always solid. Their whole front 7 actually, because
yeah,
their backers were always pretty good.
I think
But
their
Skid,
whole line were all. I think they were all first team, all conference. They had a guard that was a Samoan dude. He was all conference, or he was all American. He was a freak.
yeah, man. So Skid, last episode when we had Scott on here, we talked about expectations. We kind of went through the background of Eastern Kentucky football. We talked about how there's such a high standard there. How winning is expected, going to the postseason is expected. You have over 20 postseason appearances. You have 4 national title appearances, 2 national championships. Now, those first 2 years you're there, so you go 7-4 or 8-4 rather, because I think you guys played
Yeah,
12
no,
games that year.
I think we were 7-4 because we needed to be 8-4. If we'd have been 8-4, we'd have went to the playoffs. We lost 21-0 to EIU in the snow bowl. It was
Mhm.
like 6 degrees and there was 4 inches of snow on the ground.
Yep.
They were pregame. They were taking bulldozers and clearing the field or bobcats. They were clearing the field with bobcats pregame. It was awful.
Yep. Then you go sophomore year, you guys play some pretty tough games. Obviously, you have NC State with Jacoby Brissett that year. And then
Yes.
you have the very famous UK game that we all know about that went into overtime. You guys finished 6-5, still have a winning season, missed the playoffs by 1 game, and all of a sudden there's a coaching change. Coach Hood is let go, in comes Mark Elder. Talk to me about that transition. I'm sure you guys were shocked. How did you react? What was the mentality there?
Well, we didn't. The way that we found out about, can I fix this light real quick? Hold
Yeah, absolutely.
on.
Got to make sure the lighting's right.
It's just my Xbox just changed to night mode. There's just not a lot of light in this room, so I'm trying to. Um,
I think darkness is your ally.
but yeah, the way we found that out about Coach Elder, we found it out on Twitter. Like we didn't know Coach Hill was getting fired. We had no idea, and his Lockmiller just didn't tell us. He just dropped the ball on it, like and we just found out like there was some talks that they thought maybe why this isn't working. I'm sorry.
You're all good.
It's just- here,
We can still see you perfectly. That's all that matters.
all right, that's fine. I'm making sure. But anyways,
You're all good. You're all good.
yeah, Lockmiller didn't tell us, and there was a couple. There was the guy from Southern Miss. I don't know if you remember. Southern Miss was really good. That would have been 2015, I think. 2000.
That was the guy that ended up being the OC for the Tampa Bay Bucks, right?
Yes, yes. So he came to campus, saw, and this was before we had any. There, we were still in Begley. We were still in the old weight room before they got the hamstring stuff. Like it was awful for it to be as prestigious. We had just the poor, abysmal facilities. So the rumor was that he came to campus, saw our campus, got back in his car and left. Didn't even interview, which I believe 100%. But um, Elder got all the hype because of Bruce Pearl, obviously, and being him coming from Tennessee. And so we were all like, okay, this is awesome. Bruce Pearl was extremely successful, and if we could get a chip off of that, which I liked Coach Elder. Initially, it was real. He came strong initially, like he was trying to. Well, I mean, he was just trying to get rid of some scholarships, get some transfers, get some
Bring in your own guys.
exactly. So he was trying to run us off. So like, I think they hired him. It was a pretty late hire. I would have said it was like February when he got hired,
Mhm.
and then probably a month later we had spring, mat drills. And those first mat drills were tough.
Hell.
It was awful. It was not good because you came the year after that, right, Tom?
Yeah, so Elder's second year,
Yeah.
2017.
So yeah, that
So
first year, man, it
it's
was brutal.
funny you're mentioning, like trying to clear up some scholarship space and all that because, you know, before I ended up meeting you at Eastern Kentucky, we went through the same shit at UConn.
Mm.
We have a coaching change. New coach comes in and he's trying to see who he can weed out. Obviously, we had a very strong team, so no one quit. So he just yanked scholarships on his own, um, just to everyone's surprise. And unfortunately, me and a couple of my other friends, it was like just the luck of the draw. Our scholarships were pulled, so should I have to transfer?
Yeah,
And it sounds like yeah, Elder, new coaching staff. They're always going to do that. They're going to want to bring in their own guys, and you know they'll even play freshmen right away. If they don't think that the veterans fit their culture, they're going to bring in their own guys, freshmen, underclassmen, and have them
mhm.
start over you.
That's what it was. The way that was portrayed to me is that if this guy right here is a young guy, and you're a sophomore, junior, and you are the same level, well, we're going to play the freshman instead because he's the future. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
But the mat drills was awful. It was really bad that year. Did you ever have to go to the hill?
Yes, but not the one in the back. It was the one that was like actually at the stadium.
No. So we went to the last day we ran the model.
Yeah, that hill
Yeah,
model.
that was
Yep.
awful, man. And it's like you had a partner. If you raced, if you lost at the top, you had to do 5 up downs.
Mhm.
It was brutal, man. I mean, it was. You want to talk about a culture shock? We're running on the side of the bypass in our cleats. Running, we ran to model from
Jonathan, that's a highway for your reference.
yeah
Yeah,
the bypass
bypass.
right next to the state. So yeah, my freshman and sophomore year, we ran a traditional, almost like a 50. We had a kernel like a rover. We ran. It was really it was like a 4-4 cover three, basically is what we ran with a wall. With the wall, we always had almost exclusively we had a 50 front. So we switched from that, where I said I was a true plug nose, to we switched to a attacking 4-3, where we're slanting every play, where running stunts every play. We're moving, we're fast, and that was just not my identity as a D lineman. So
That could be frustrating too, because I'm sure oftentimes, you were slanting, you were stunting out of plays, out of the position to
yes,
make a play. Which
yes,
I've never been a fan of those kind of defenses. I like, key stepping and being able to read, where the play is going, where it's going to develop, see where you can make an impact.
that's actually the defense we're running at Somerset now. It's more than likely, I don't know, but it's just that's why I ran a high school, was like that. Your first step, it didn't matter if you step left or right. You're reading the A gaps as a nose guard, so it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Um, but after trying to think, after probably the spring ball, I started having issues with our D line coach. It's just it wasn't anything against him. We just didn't mesh, and I just didn't fit the mold that he wanted. So I start seeing guys play over top of me, and I'm like, yeah, I can't do this. So I'm too good of a player. So I tell Coach Elder, I say, hey, I want to meet you at 6 a.m. next morning. So I go in his office, meet with him, and say, hey, here's the deal. I'm not this guy. I'm not a fast guy. I'm not. I'm a true plug nose guard, and when we don't need this in this defense, I need to be moved along. And I said, if you don't move me this, I'm gonna. go and I'm going to go play somewhere else and I'm going to see you guys for the next 3 years. So he moved to O-line and the O-line coach at the time was Coach Heffernan. And I credit everything to Coach Heff, man. He's a phenomenal coach. He was able to, I mean, yeah, because like I said, I played in high school, but there's such a massive difference to high school O-line to college,
Oh,
especially in Coach Heff's system, because Coach Heff played center at Dayton whenever they won a national championship in Division III. And Coach Heff's an extremely smart guy. So like he was our OC, he wasn't our OC, but he was. The whole offense was surrounded by the offensive line and especially the center. So I switched to a line in the spring. I have a pretty good spring ball. I ended up playing a little guard. Just trying to learn everything. I remember Coach F probably this has happened twice to me in my career, but I think it's probably 2 weeks after spring ball. He came to me and was like, "Skid, do you know your plays?" Like, well, yeah, I know my plays, man.
full
And
circle.
he said, "Okay, well, you probably starting center come camp." I was like, "Oh, okay, all right then." So I ended up starting center. I get a full write up in the paper, and
Well, there was also something that happened before that too. The good old Z Stevenson.
that is, I forgot about that. I was trying not to bash anybody. What
No, we're
happened?
not. The Z is
Is
a hell of a player.
Z
You
was
know,
phenomenal. That was the starting center. So I forgot about that, Tom. I was at, I think you were still at right, Tom.
I'd just gotten there. Like it was my first summer. I had
Yeah,
just
but
gotten there.
yeah, you're right. Okay, so I was at left guard. That's where and DeJour was right, maybe.
Yep.
Um, but hold on just a second, man. My wife, give me just 2 seconds.
You're all good.
What does?
It's probably like you got to come here and help with Avery. So to all the viewers, Skid is a new father.
Yes. Let me go check on him real quick. Guard.
You're all good, buddy. So yeah, so Jonathan, kind of picking up with this. Yeah, position changes. They do happen, more often than you would think. I know for me in college, it happened multiple times. Switching from D line to O line. It happened a couple times at UConn. It happened again at Eastern Kentucky. Switching from O line to D line. So it's a pretty common transition. You see this happen to a lot of players in college.
Can you hear
So
me?
so
You hear me?
Skid, yeah, you're good. Skid, so you had to switch from nose tackle to left guard, and then you switched again to center?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And I played a little bit in that 50. I would bounce to D end a little. Well, really, it was at three tech. Played a little bit. I mean, but most of the time it was nose guard. Went to left guard, played a little bit of right guard, and then I went to center just going into camp. And the way that what this sounds, it's not as bad as it sounds when I say it like that, but it was awful because the way that our center was set up is like had the cadence, like I had help do all the checks with pass pro, like I had to know everything on. So it was a major hurdle to go over.
So how long did that process take for you to get comfortable with
Mid
doing that?
season, like yeah. No, I mean, like I was ready to go first game. It's just some of the things that offense, man. It was just we were a true traditional zone offense, and with play action off of that, some zone read stuff. What our problem was is first couple games we were running over people. Like you remember, like first couple games, like against UK, like we ran all over UK, and people started scheming us up because we were heavy. Like we had three running backs that were just extremely talented. LJ Scott, Stink, Jason Lewis. Like Jason Lewis is a freak of nature. He's a,
Lonzo Booth.
like Lonzo was a freshman. That's right, and he followed on the goal line in UK. But
I-
anyways, we uh, we were running all over people. People started scheming against us, like in particular, SEMO, Southeastern Missouri.
We had 11 yards, 11
Man,
yards rushing
They
against.
what the problem was is a strong zone offense. You also have to have a good either counter or power run game to complement it.
We
Otherwise,
didn't have that initially.
no, we had no power. Like we didn't run any power offense. So it was just zone right, zone left, outside zone left, zone right. And so people started what SEMO did to us, and like we started seeing it throughout the rest of the year was they lined up in super wide split D ends.
And they run
Literally,
laterally. They will
yes.
run laterally
Like
to stop the
there was
outside zone.
0 chance of us reaching. And with that outside zone, it literally shut our entire offense down. And so like SEMO, we got obliterated, man. And I ended up losing my starting job at center against
I d I did
played
too.
awful. Yeah.
That was my first career
Yeah.
start, and I was already back to the, as a 2 the next week. I was the
Well,
back to the, rotational guard position.
I started well, at Tennessee Tech the week before that, I tore a ligament in my finger. So that was my first game. I had this like cast on my finger and I just couldn't hit anybody. It was just so much, it's awful. I was in so much pain. So then I played awful that game. I think I graded the lowest I ever graded. And
Dude, I remember the grades, man.
oh, it was awful. Mine was awful. Mine was like in the 50s.
58.
Yeah.
I got a 68. Other
I think,
people got like
I
69,
think there's
67.
Chance grade super high. He was only,
Chance got like damn near a 90, which is
yeah.
why he ended up back in the starting lineup the very next week.
But I ended up not losing a starting role. I think me and you rotate.
Yep. So I
Yeah.
was, so Jonathan, in our system, so we like to keep our O-line fresh. So we had a lot of rotational pieces. So actually, when I first got there, when we started the season, our first game was against Western Kentucky. Then we went into Kentucky. So I was what they called the pinball guard. So I would go in essentially every third series. So I would take third series of a game, I would take a series at left guard. Then the very next series, I would take it right guard, and then I would be off for 2 series, and then come do the same rotation again. So that was the way our O line operated. We also did that with the tackles. The only position that wouldn't rotate, of course, was the center because that'll just throw off the rhythm of your entire offense. But this allows you to have fresh bodies so that, by the time you get to the fourth quarter, maybe you're only at like 40 reps for the game as opposed to 80, which
Yeah.
is exhausting.
Mhm. But I think who do we play after SEMO, Tom? Do you remember?
Tennessee State.
Tennessee State.
That
Okay.
was the pick six
The
palooza.
four picks games. So I ended up starting left tackle or left guard that game. I don't even think I made it a series. And Coach F was like, "This kid, go back to center." I think it was DeJour. Remember DeJour was at center. And he says, I think we had a fumbled snap, we had a bad snap or something happened. He's just like, "No, he's done. Toasted." So he didn't put me back at center. I ended up playing the rest of the game at center. And I actually graded out pretty high that game, I think. I think I actually had pretty
The whole O line did.
yeah, we played really well. It's just the problem is that is our offense coordinator was putting our cornerbacks in bad positions. Like it was just the way our offense was set up is we there wasn't a read route. It was like if this is the play, this is the
Have to go to this guy. There, it's not. Yeah, like that
or
is your
you
only
throw it
option.
away. Like that's it. So like
Yeah.
Tim ended up forcing balls that didn't need to be going there.
So it sounds like it was just a very basic offense.
He,
He was the
it was
easiest
it
offense
was
to learn for
yes,
me,
it was
honestly.
too complex on the back end that like it ended up stifling and like making it harder on us towards the end because like she would add shit that just didn't make sense. We'd run these stupid ass plays that were just all like the jailbreak screens never worked. Never. Anyways, so we go from Tennessee State. I think that was then the next game was that UT Martin? Or was that
That was Jack State.
okay? So I think I graded out pretty good at Jacksonville if I remember. I
A
think.
lot of we graded out pretty high at Jack State.
Which one of those games you got block of the week? I don't remember if it was Tennessee State. One of those 3 games that stretch, you got block of the week because you played really well one of those games, and you ended up getting
So
back
it ended up being a loss. So I got the what we call the Fist Award.
the fist one. That's what it was. Yeah,
Because I only got blocker of the week once. That was my last year there. Gotta check on that baby, man.
we're gonna find my fist tap.
Oh, it's fine. It's bad.
I'll buy it.
So Skid's about to talk to you about what the Fist Award actually is. So the Fist Award is 5 individuals strong together. This was an award, win or loss. This was given every single week to an offensive lineman that excelled during the week of preparation and practice, and they played really well in the game that week. And then there would be a blocker of the week. So unfortunately, the games I remember my first year at EKU, the games where I graded out the highest, they were all on.
It's
But anyways, so Skid, I want to talk about overcoming adversity. So obviously, you're used to winning your first 2 years at Eastern. You're used to winning. You're used to being in big games. You're used to being in playoff contention. You guys fall to 3-8, your first year of the coaching change. And then your last year, your senior season, it starts out horrible. I mean, there was a lot of promise after the first 2 games of the way, we were able to perform against FBS teams, but we fell to 1-5 at one point in that season. Now, as a senior, that your playoff hopes have slipped away. What's the mentality going, through the rest of the season? It's like, are you defeated? Are you going to keep trying? Are you checked out? What do you do?
I don't think there was ever a point I checked out. I mean, it was just like I was enjoying myself. It was my last hoorah as that college athlete. It didn't matter if we had never won a game or if we didn't went undefeated. Like I was enjoying it, going fighting for my guys as much as I could. I really took on a major leadership role my senior year. I was got the privilege to be voted a captain by it was you guys. You're the we had the most players on the team. Like you're the whole reason why I got
We
moved.
all voted. We all voted for Skid. Yep.
Yeah. And it's just I didn't have time to be mentally checked out or to be in a bad mood towards my teammates as a captain. You know what I mean? And it was even through the hard times, and there were some really hard times, but there were some good times. We had some good times in that season. Very sparingly, but we
Yeah.
have they were there. Even man, just put on a life for my brothers. It was just that was good enough for me. A lot of times, though, when losing sucks. I'm a really extremely competitive, so that was never good to lose. But um, I think you can always find a good in some sort of in a loss. I feel like we got better as a unit, and there were some games that we played phenomenal, and it just wasn't in our cards. Like it wasn't our fault
Cards just
that it
weren't
was.
right.
Especially like Tennessee State was a big one, man. We dominated those guys up front. Like we killed them, and it's just I mean,
You,
what
you, you
you just
can't
sit there
turn
and
the
play
ball over. You just
you,
can't turn the ball over. 3 pick sixes in that game.
you can play the point game against any of those games. Like Jacksonville State, we do the same. That's why Jonathan earlier, whenever I was talking about Jack State my freshman year or my sophomore year, freshman year, I remember my senior year, we take the ball and we shove it up Jacksonville State's ass first drive. I mean, absolutely. Like we're dropping guys. It is just a massacre. It looks like the Tea Party, dude. It's you're just destroying people. We're on like the 4-yard line, and we decided to throw
Pick, threw a
pop
pick
through a pick six to the crib.
after a 16 play drive.
Yeah, I mean, we
Nice.
are absolutely like. So you want to talk about the air being let out of the stadium? Like we just got,
I
and
was
what
shook.
was the final score of that game? It was like 30.
40. So it was 38-3 at the half. The
Yeah,
final score was 41-25.
yeah.
So the reason I want to point that out is because we were getting our asses kicked at halftime. There's no chance in hell we're going to win that
Mhm.
game. But for us to end up ultimately putting up 25 points, that showed that, yeah, we're a losing team. Our record indicates we're a losing team. There's no doubt about it, but it shows that we have fight. We didn't give up. We fought for those 25 points in the second half, and it was against a really good football team. These guys were
They
number
were-
3 in the
Yeah,
nation at the
they
time.
were really good. I always said, I always told you guys that we had a losing record, but we weren't losers. You know what I mean? Like
We never gave
we
up.
had it going. Well, no, every one of those games. I mean, aside from a couple, were 1 to 2 touchdown games. Like they were very winnable games. If something happens this way or something goes the other way, like the UK game, for example, we were up on UK 18. Uh, it it was at the beginning of the half or the end of the half.
So
The,
we were up
So
16.
oh, go
What were you
ahead.
saying? I was just gonna say we were up 16-10 going into the half,
we would have win. That's what it was. We would have went up if we were on the 2-yard line,
and we
and
fumbled.
we had this freshman, is Alonzo Booth, and he had a phenomenal career at Eastern. Like he was a really good running back, and he was
Bowling ball. He was a
huge.
bowling ball.
He's like 5'10", 5'11",
It's like a
probably.
Mike Tolbert, if you guys remember.
I bet he was. We always just say he was 300 pounds. He wasn't, but I bet he was 260. No kidding. And like
Damn.
he was destroying our defense, like, during my scout team. He was
It
running
was
like
always
a
fun
truck.
watching him run. It was
His
one of my favorite
freaking
parts of
first
playing there.
carry of his college career was on the 2-yard line against UK. We score right here, we go up 2 touchdowns. I think we win the game.
Yes.
Because it was our first. I remember it was the first drive after halftime. We go, we shove the ball up their ass, and we're on. I'm not sure. We're on the 3 or 4 yard line. We give it to Lonzo. He gets hit on the goal line, fumbles.
So to give Lonzo some credit, so something happened on the front side of that play. He had to bounce it outside where there was none of his blockers were there.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
he was just trying to make something out of nothing, and I'm sure ball security was the last thing on his mind because he's just trying to make a play.
No, he was just surviving at that point. Like, but yeah, what do you expect? Dude, he's a freshman, and like I said, he ended up having a phenomenal career. He was, I think he ended up
One of the
winning
better backs in Eastern
offensive player
history
of the year. I think maybe. I mean, he
for the
was
OVC.
OVC. I mean, yeah, he was really, he's phenomenal. I mean, he's a stud. He was huge. That was just so. It's just young. Just all it was just youth. His youth showing out. But um, after that game, or after Jacksonville State, we played UT Martin, which was probably my best game I ever played in college. I absolutely balled out. I think I graded like a 95.
He had 89 or 90, something like that.
Yeah, but it's the highest I've ever graded out, and I ended up getting blocked. We win. I ended up getting blocked of the week. I also ended up tearing my MCL that game. Tearing my MCL. I get blindside hit on my side of my knee, and I'm off for like 2 series. Come back in. I ended up playing like 80 total snaps on a torn MCL. Um, that game was awesome. I mean, it's one of the best. Like I said, it's probably the best game I ever had in college. I had like 6, 7 pancakes that game. We balled out, and really, like, what was the fun score of that game, Tom? Do you remember?
We won by 10. I think it was 31-21.
The score was just not indicative of how the game was played. That we dominated them. It was
So the most important thing I want to point out about that game. So Jonathan, we touched on earlier how we were a big zone team, so big in the zone that we absolutely had no power. We didn't have the ability to run duo. We didn't have the ability to run power or counter off of it. UT Martin was when we truly found our identity as an offensive line. We realized we could run duo. So we basically earlier in the week
shoved it
in
up there.
practice, we ended up making a small little tweak to it. Because Skid, I don't know if you remember, there was what they called the wizard element. So it'd be like 44,
Yeah,
45 wizard.
right.
And we ran this one play to the right and the left. We ran it
I know we ran
probably
20
40 times, 40, at
easily.
least 40 times. We
Mhm.
just kept running it. They couldn't stop it.
And what was the wizard tag? Wasn't it like a tight end in motion, or tight
Yeah.
end like something like tight end gut block, or I don't know what it was.
Yep, it was the tight end. It was the way we inserted the tight end. I
Yeah.
gotta watch the film because I forget exactly how we did it.
What I remember is that we were averaging like 8, 9 yards of carry. Like, we literally shoved this ball up their ass. So it was incredible. You know, talk about it as an O lineman. Like, it was just a beautiful thing. I had to get a block of the week. I graded out the highest I ever got. I get the Fist Award. Then I'm in the training room all week because my MCL is torn, and I get my knee probably to 80, 90% by game time the next week, which is Murray State. And Murray they were pretty good. They weren't like
Their
good,
record didn't.
but they were like up front. They were really good. Their skill was where they lacked. Their O line D line was good. They were good both sides. Murray, especially defensively, their um, their games they run on defense is always giving us fits. And I probably get 6 plays,
First drive of the game.
probably 6 plays in. We run a gas call at the 28, 28 stretch is what the play was. And the gas call that means that I was covered up front side. So there was somebody in my gap, which means that I was pulling instead of the guard. So
Yep. So the guard has to. It's essentially a fold. So the center has to pull.
yeah,
Guards blocking down.
on
So
the guy that's in front.
the most important thing on this particular play is the backside. On the backside, so don't even go there. So on the backside, there's what we call a snake call. So
Yeah,
it's a combo.
Tom was backside guard on this play. Oh,
The combo between the guard and the tackle. So when there was a 3 technique, the backside 3. And when there's a gas call, as a guard, your job is you gotta stab and separate and get out of there as soon as possible because else you're gonna be caught up in the gas call, and then that linebacker is gonna be unaccounted for. So I stabbed and separated, but our tackle did not pick up the 3 technique.
Oh, man. So anyways, I pull on this and I smoke this linebacker. I'm diving like we're like 8 yards down the field. Well, the backside three technique ends up making an almost I'm gonna say a great play on LJ. Grabs him, alligator tackles, and rolls onto the back of my legs. I end up tearing my ACL. I tried to play them, they wouldn't let me. They said because we were already. I think it was later in the game,
So
Tom.
you already had the torn
No,
MCL.
it was the first drive, man, because I remember it was like play 6, play 7 when this happened.
I just remember the trainer telling me that like because I was gonna go back in, and the trainer told me, "Oh, you guys are already winning. Don't worry about it." Like maybe what something happened. Were we up like 14 nothing or something like that?
No, I think that was the week before because that was when we were
Oh,
like
that well, you're right. You're right.
yeah.
Sorry. And knee injuries run together. So yeah, I had a torn MCL. The thing about the MCL is the MCL, there's no surgery for it. Like it just recovers.
Mm.
So it's just it sucks. It's painful, but there's nothing that you're not going to get surgery for a torn MCL. Um, so my knee, like I said, my knee was probably I think I tore my ACL tear was a mixture of different things. It was number one, it was Tom dropping the three technique. Now number two, it was the way it happened because I had do like double knee braces on that were specifically for ACL tears. And it was just the way that I was spit up with this guy. He rolled up on my legs and I ended up getting folded and I felt it pop and everything, man. And that was really the end of my season as a player. And at that point, I then I had to transition into a leader for the team and especially for these young guys. It took some getting used to for sure. But
One of my favorite memories. So Skid was always a fiery guy. He's always going to hype you up. Despite him being taken out of the game due to injury, I remember, some making some sort of block in the game, and I just hear yelling from the sidelines, like, "Attaboy, Tom! Someone get that guy a sandwich."
okay. Uh, yeah. Oh man.
So, Skid, another thing we want to address. So, obviously, your final year, your senior season, cut short due to injury. We talk about how some people are lucky enough to know when they're playing in their last game, and others aren't so lucky. Scott had a premature injury, ended his career short. How did this affect you? You didn't get to really have your own way out. Like it was your career was prematurely ended by a few games.
I think it took it was hard, man. It was not easy. I remember like as soon as Tim told me Tim, our athletic trainer, showed me that MRI, and basically the way your knee works is here's all your ligaments, and then there's your ACL is like a seatbelt that goes over the top of all these ligaments. And he's like, you see that void of space right there? It's like, yeah. He's like, that's where your ACL is supposed to be. And mine had just exploded. Like there was not fibers, it was just gone.
Damn.
And um what was so I ended up that day, it was a Sunday. We had that Sunday bullshit where we're on the field and we're all pissed off because we're tired as shit. You know what I'm talking about, Tom? Like,
Sunday practice. Yep.
yeah, and I was out there I was lost, man. I was just had to find my way. And I remember I was just real torn up. And I ended up talking to Coach F about it. And he really gave me some really just words of wisdom as being the leader that I can be. And like I said, transitioning from being a leader in the field to being a leader off the field and on the sidelines and helping these young guys out in the locker room. So that's the role that I embraced. And I mean, we had what, 4 games left, Tom? 3 games?
Only three.
Three, yeah, yeah. St. Francis, Austin P,
EIU.
EIU. Yeah. Like I said, I had to transition to that role and try to get my guys going, and especially like Jackson Bardall, which is the backup center. I really had to help him because he was just Bardall ended up being a pretty good center, but at the time he was not, and I had to help him. He just like I said, the center position on that offense was just brutal. There was so much going on. You had to be really cerebral whenever it came to different calls, and you had to check the passing, the
The
pass
protections.
pro, pass protection to the strong side, and like looking at safeties rolling down. And there's just a lot to it. So that was what the role that I found myself in is I could have either been just down in the dumps and been that senior that was just an asshole that didn't help out, that was just salty, and instead of taking that role, I ended up trying to be positive and still trying to help hype my guys up. And I went to every practice. I went to every game after that. Like it was just like I was still on the team. I just didn't play. You know what I mean? Which obviously I was still on the team, but I went from a starter to hanging out with the coaches on the sidelines. It was a learning curve, but
For sure, but looking back, like, that set you up for the success that you have now being a coach in your hometown.
oh, I think so, 100%, man. I think it's a true show of adversity. Like, whenever life throws you adversity, you have 2 choices. You can either back down to it, or you can embrace it and move on from it. And I think that's what football as a whole, man. You know, football is a game of adversity. How many times in your career, Tom, you remember getting knocked on your back
Several. S-
dropping the backside 3 technique on a gas toll, like, you but you just find yourself the game is it's that's what I'm saying, you find yourself,
That
uh,
wasn't even the worst thing that happened to me that
really
game. I don't know if you remember, they brought Raider X, and I whiffed on the
yeah,
crosser.
yeah, I do remember. I just remember, like, rewatching Coach Epps the camera thing in his hand. He goes, "Watch this." And we go back and forth. We watched the tape 5 times, the foul ball on his face. Like, I think I no, who got blocker in the game that game? I don't remember who it was. Was it
It
was it
was
Bo
probably Boogie.
Boogie was so good, man. He was really good. You know,
Was our
people sleep
tackle.
on the right tackle because everybody thinks that left tackle is the most important. It's like left tackle's good at pass pro, but your right tackle is that ass eater that's just bulldozing people, man. He's good. I mean, Boogie was so good, man. Um,
One of my favorite people.
yeah, he's awesome. But I miss all those guys. I didn't get back in contact with those guys for sure. But yeah, it was an interesting situation I found myself in, and I think I not to toot my own horn, but I think I handled it as well as I could have. Because it's like, the last game of the year was a Saturday. My knee surgery was that Monday, and I
Yep.
actually ended up being in a study with UK Sports Medicine on the effects of cortisol steroid on your knee recovery. What's really cool about this is that week before my surgery, they pulled 1,600 cc's of fluid off my knee and put a steroid in. And dude, it was nuts. Like you remember that talking about like 4 hours before our last game, I was in the weight room like squatting 500 pounds with chains and just doing lunges and jumping. I remember Dr. Latterman, he was the doctor. He was the head of sports medicine. He was my doctor. He's actually the head of Boston, University of Boston, their bridge
UB.
program between UB and Harvard. He's the head guy of that now,
Sorry, BU.
or
BU.
BU.
Boston
Yeah,
University.
but he,
Oh, being
remember,
an asshole.
he was
Just
foreign and he cussed me up. What are you doing? He was so mad because I was jumping up, high fiving people, and just being that they called me the juice man. But yeah, dude, it's one of those things you got to deal with.
no, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Well, we're hitting that close to that hour marker. Skid, to wrap up here. It's how what's your favorite memory of just playing college ball at EKU, man? I mean, obviously you had a lot of fond memories there. You got to live with such an awesome roommate and all. Don't share
Uh,
any roommate stories,
Best
please.
memory, man. I don't, dude. I honestly, as rocky as my senior year was, um, just playing and learning. I think I enjoyed a line more than I did D line. Looking back on it now, I was pretty pissed off having to leave, obviously, but I, you know how it is, Tom. I mean, you made the transition. I think I ended up liking O line more than D line. I love Coach Heff. He was the man. Like, I still think he's a phenomenal coach. Of course, Coach Heffern is the O line coach at
Virginia now.
UBA now, yeah. And I just really the memories I made my senior year with all you guys, it was just memories for a lifetime. Those guys were just incredible. Every one of them. And my whole experience, I had a great college experience, dude. I love Eastern. I had probably 12 offers coming out of high school, and some a little bit bigger than Eastern, and that was my home from the first day of my freshman year going to camp there to whenever I finally said goodbye to the place. With my last year there, I was actually still there when Tom was there. My last year, I was an intern for the athletic department, and that was fun. Interesting change in direction of on campus. I don't think I ever went to a softball game or a soccer game before my senior year. I went to
And you went to every single
yeah,
one.
I worked the scoreboard at every home baseball game. Been to like 3 baseball games ever. Same thing with the I worked the shot clock at the basketball games.
That's
Good time.
right.
But yeah,
Well, awesome, Skid. Well, thank you so much for coming on. You're welcome back
yeah,
anytime. Of course, once the NFL starts, we're gonna need you on here.
yeah.
Talk some football. We'll talk some Packer football.
We don't have to do that. We can talk about something else.
Okay, sounds good.
That's fine. We'll talk about that.
Might
I
be a
was
rough
just I was
year.
just being nice.
We talk about the 49ers, man.
Let's do it. Let's
Yeah.
do it.
All right. Awesome.
All right, guys. Appreciate you having me on.
All right. Thanks, Skid.
Appreciate you.
Go Colonels.
Roll currents.